Om Jnanatimarandasya Gyanajana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gurva Bhishtam Sapurakam Guruganarasi Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipanam Sri Rupa Patanugam Govinda Vidam Ujwalam Bharatanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Bande Vishwa Guruncha Divyat Bhagavat Prem Nawe Bija Pradam Devam Divyatanum Suchandabaranam Balar Kachilanshitam Sandrananda Puram Sadeka Varanam Vairagya Vidyamburim Sri Siddhanta Nidim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Bandetam Shubharam Madeka Sharanam Nyashishvara Sridharam Vanshakopatarubyasya Kripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavenibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishay Namah. So we're hearing from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, with translation and commentary by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupad. This is the Madhya-lila chapter 1. The later pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Let's see. Start with verse number 105. Trimala Sripadi Stana Koiladarashan Sarvatra Korila Krishna Nama Pracharan. He visited the places known as Tirumala and Tirupati, where he extensively preached the chanting of the Lord's holy name. This holy place is situated in the district of Tanjore, Chittor, South India. The temple of Tirupati is situated in the valley of Venkatachala and contains the deity of Lord Ramachandra. On top of Venkatachala is the famous temple of Balaji. So that's in what was before called Andhra Pradesh. Now they divided Andhra Pradesh in two states. I think it became Andhra Pradesh and I don't remember the name of the other state. So what we're hearing is a summary of the Madhya-lila and the Anja-lila, Mahaprabhu's travels in South India. Tabeta pashandigane korila dalan, ahovala nashingadi koila darashan. After visiting the temple of Tirumala and Tirupati, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to subdue some atheists. He then visited the temple of Ahovala Nrsinga. The Ahovala temple is situated in Dakshinatya, in the district of Karnool, within the subdivision of Sarbella. Throughout the whole district, this very famous temple is much appreciated by the temple. There are 8 other temples there, 8 other temples also, and all of them together are called the Navanashringa temples. There is much wonderful architecture and artistic engraving work in their temples. However, stated in the local gazette, the Karnool manual, their work is not complete. So this is Rangachetra. Shri Rangachetraila Kavir Tira Shri Rangadekiya Preme Hoila Astir. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to the land of Sri Rangachetra on the bank of the Kaveri, he visited the temple of Sri Ranganath and was there overwhelmed in the ecstasy of love of Godhead. Trimala Bhatter Gare Korila Prabhu Bas Tahai Rohila Prabhu Varsha Charimas. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived at the house of Trimala Bhatta for the 4 months of the rainy season. Sri Vaishnava Trimala Bhatta Parama Pandit Gosaira Panditya Preme Hoila Vishmita Sri Trimala Bhatta was both a member of the Sri Vaishnava community and a learned scholar. Therefore, when he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was both a great scholar and a great devotee of the Lord, he was very much astonished. Chaturmashataha Prabhu Sri Vaishnavasane Gonaila Nritya Gita Krishna Sankirtane. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed the Chaturmasha with the Sri Vaishnava, singing, chanting the holy name, and dancing. Chaturmasha ante punadakinagaman Paramananda Puri Saha Tahai Milan. After the end of Chaturmasha, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued traveling throughout South India. At that time, he met Paramananda Puri. Tabe Badahari Hoite Krishnadaser Udar Ramajapi Vipramuke Krishnanama Prachar. After this, Krishnadas, the servant of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was delivered from the clutches of the Bhadatari. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then preached that Lord Krishna's name should also be chanted by Brahmins who were accustomed to chanting Lord Rama's name. So Krishnadas, he fell under the influence of the Bhattataris. The Bhattataris are like gypsies, and they know tantric art, so they put some spell on Krishnadas with the help of women, and Krishnadas was a lord. And then Mahaprabhu went and rescued him from the Bhattataris. He dragged him back by his hair, and then the Bhattataris attacked Mahaprabhu with weapons like hatchets and different weapons, but all their weapons fell from their hands and started cutting their bodies into pieces. So they all ran away, but Mahaprabhu rescued Krishnadas. Shri Rangapuri Saha Tahai Milan Ramadas Vipra Koila Dukkha Vimuchan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then met Sri Rangapuri and mitigated all the sufferings of a Brahmin named Ramadas. Tatvavadi Saha Koila Tatvara Vichar Apanake Hina Buddhi Hoila Tasavar. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also had a discussion with the Tattvavadi community, and the Tattvavadis felt themselves to be inferior Vaishnavas. So Ramadas, he was very sad about it because he thought Sita, Ramachandra's wife, had been touched by Ravana, but then Mahaprabhu presented some scriptural evidence that actually when Sita was kidnapped, she was exchanged for a Maya Sita who appeared to be Sita but was actually an illusory form of Sita to confuse Ravana. And so Sita really wasn't ever directly kidnapped by Ravana. And then here it mentions the Tattvavadis. The Tattvavadis were Mahaprabhu appeared within the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So the Tattvavadis are related with Madhvacharya. And actually when I was in India, I met with people from the Tattvavadis, but they don't really present properly Vaishnavism in the sense. They told me that there were people who were deep in Tamagun and they could not be saved by the holy name, so I didn't accept that. Okay, so anyway. Mahaprabhu also had a discussion with the Tattvavadi community, and the Tattvavadis felt themselves to be inferior Vaishnavas. Ananta Purushottama Sri Janardan Padmanabha Vasudeva Koiladarshan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then visited the Vishnu temples of Anantadev, Purushottama, Sri Janardan, Padmanabha, and Vasudeva. A temple of Ananta Padmanabha Vishnu was situated in the Trivandrum district, Tiruvananthapuram. This temple is very famous in those quarters. Another Vishnu temple named Sri Janardan is situated about 26 miles north of the Trivandrum district, near the railway station called Varkala. Of course, this is during the writing of the Chaitanya Charitamrita commentary of Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, from which Prabhupada is taking notes and everything. Srila Saraswati Thakur mentions railway stations near where Mahaprabhu was visiting, and the purpose of this is so that if people want to actually go on pilgrimage throughout where Mahaprabhu traveled, they can know where these places are so that they can visit. And they can still use that. Although many of the railway stations, I mean, this was over 100 years ago, so, around 100 years ago. So whether that information is still current, we don't know. Tabe Prabhu Koila Sapta Tala Vimochan Setubande Snana Rameshwara Darshan. After that, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered the celebrated Saptatala trees, took his bath at the Setubanda Rameshwar, and visited the temple of Lord Shiva known as Rameshwar. It is said that the Saptatala trees were very old, massive palm trees. There was once a fight between Vali and his brother Sugriva, and Lord Ramachandra took the side of Sugriva and killed Vali, keeping himself behind one of the celebrated trees. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu toured South India, he embraced the trees which were delivered and directly promoted to Vaikuntha. Tahai Korila, Korma, Purana, Shavan, Maya Sita, Nileka, Ravana, Tahate Ligan. At Rameshwar, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a chance to read the Korma Purana, in which he discovered that the form of Sita, kidnapped by Rama, was not that of the real Sita, but a mere shadow representation. The Korma Purana states that this shadowy Sita was placed into a fire as a test of chastity. It was Maya Sita who entered the fire, and the real Sita who came out of the fire. It was after Sita was rescued by Lord Ramachandra, and then Sita entered into a fire, and actually who entered into the fire was Maya Sita, and who came out from the fire was the real Sita. So just sometimes this happens, that there's apparent exchange of forms. In this case, Maya Sita was the one who was kidnapped by Ravana, and Ramachandra, the real Sita, returned to Ramachandra. Shunya Prabhur Anandita Koilaman Vama Das Viprer Kata Hoila Smaran. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very glad to read about the false Sita, and he remembered the meeting with Ramadas Vipra, who was very sorry that Mother Sita had been kidnapped by Ravana. Say Puratana Patra Agraha Korenila Ramadase Dekaya Dukkha Kandaila. Indeed, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu eagerly took this page from the Korma Purana, although the book was very old, and he later showed it to Ramadas Vipra, whose unhappiness was mitigated. So in those days, scriptures were written on palm leaves, so you could take the palm leaf and replace it with another palm leaf like that, or copy it. And he took that to show to that Ramadas, who was very devastated because he was a devotee of Ramachandra, and he was very upset about Sita being kidnapped by Ravana. Brahma Samhita Karnamrita Dui Patibaya Dui Pushtakaloya Nila Uttamajaniya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also found two other books, namely the Brahma Samhita and Krishna Karnamrita. Knowing these books to be excellent, he took them to present to his devotees. Punarapi nila chale gamanada korila bhaktagane miliya snanajatra dekila. After collecting these books, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to Jagannath Puri. At that time, the bathing ceremony of Jagannath was taking place, and he saw it. That's the Snan Yatra. When I was in South India with Prabhupada, then he was leaving. Then after that, we were in Andhra Pradesh and visiting where Mahaprabhu met with Ramananda Roy near the Godavari. And then Prabhupada was going to the west, and he told me I could go to Jagannath Puri for the Snan Yatra. And so I was a sannyasi, but I didn't know. No, at that time I was actually a brahmachari, and I didn't know what the Snan Yatra was. So I went to Puri, and we tried to get into the Jagannath temple, and they first, well, a lot of things happened, but then when I was going to leave, not knowing about Snan Yatra, I was leaving the Puri and offering my obeisances in the road by the Jagannath temple. And then when I got up from the ground and looked above me, there was Lord Jagannath. Because on Snan Yatra, they take Jagannath out of the temple and bathe him up high. So when I was thinking that how could I get into the temple to see Lord Jagannath? But when I was in the road, I could looked up, and there I could see Lord Jagannath. After that, they say Jagannath becomes, after the Snan Yatra, after he's bathed, they say he becomes ill. So for like 2 weeks, you can't have any darshan. But actually, during that time, they're doing what Srila Govinda Maharaj calls the nourishment of Lord Jagannath. Actually, his body's being restored and or nourished and painted and everything, gotten ready for the Jagannath Rathayatra, which is 2 weeks after Snan Yatra. Anavasare Jagannath Napaya Darshan Virahe Atala Virahe Alalanatha Korilagaman. When Jagannath was absent from the temple, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who could not see him, felt separation and left Jagannath Puri to go to a place known as Alalanath. Alalanath is also known as Brahmagiri. This place is about 14 miles from Jagannath Puri and is also on the beach. There is a temple of Jagannath there at the present. Okay, so The word anavasar is used when Sri Jagannath cannot be seen in the temple after the bathing ceremony. Snanayatra, Lord Jagannath apparently becomes ill. He is therefore removed to his private apartment where no one can see him. Actually, during this period, renovations are made on the body of the Jagannath deity. This is called Navayovana. During the Rathayatra ceremony, Lord Jagannath once again comes before the public. Thus, for 14 days after the bathing ceremony, Lord Jagannath is not visible to any visitors. Bhaktasane Din Kata Tahai Rahila Godera Bhaktaishe Samachara Paila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained for some days at Alalanath. In the meantime, he received news that all the devotees from Bengal were coming to Jagannath Puri. Nityananda Sarvabhauma Agraha Korinya Nilachale Aila Mahaprabhu Ke Loya. When the devotees from Bengal arrived at Jagannath Puri, both Nityananda Prabhu and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya greatly endeavored to take Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu back to Jagannath Puri. Virahe Vivala Prabhu Najane Ratri Dine Henakale Ailagoder Bhaktagane. When Mahaprabhu finally left Alalanath to return to Jagannath Puri, he was overwhelmed day and night due to separation from Jagannath. His lamentation knew no bounds. During this time, all the devotees from different parts of Bengal, and especially from Navadip, arrived in Jagannath Puri. So one day, I think it's the day before the Rathayatra, then you can have then Lord Jagannath comes back to the temple and people can have darshan. But for about 2 weeks they can't. So Mahaprabhu was overwhelmed during that time. He could not have darshan of Jagannath. Sabe mili jukti kore kirtana arambila kirtana veshe prabhur manastira hoila. After due consideration, all the devotees began chanting the holy name congregationally. Lord Chaitanya's mind was thus pacified by the ecstasy of the chanting. So to relieve Mahaprabhu of his separation from the Lord, the devotees were doing kirtan. Purve Chabe Prabhu Ramandare Milila Nilachale Ashibare Tare Agyadila. Previously, when Mahaprabhu had been touring South India, he had met Ramananda Roy on the banks of the Godavari. At that time, it had been decided that Ramananda Roy would resign from his post as governor and return to Jagannath Puri to live with Mahaprabhu. Raja Agyaloya Tehok Ailakata Dine Ratri Dine Krishna Kata Ramananda Sane. Upon the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Ramananda Roy took leave of the king and returned to Jagannath Puri. After he arrived, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very much enjoyed talking with him both day and night about Lord Krishna and his pastimes. So in the later pastimes of Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu is all the time principally with two persons, Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar. And Ramananda Roy, I believe he recites verses, and Swarup Damodar sings, and in this way Mahaprabhu gets some relief from his feelings of separation from the Lord. But Ramananda Roy was previously in the service of the government of Prachaparudra Maharaj. But when he asked to leave his government service, he was earning a lot of what they call taka or money. He was earning a lot of money, but he wanted to renounce his service and join Mahaprabhu And the king was overwhelmed with ecstasy hearing that Ramananda Roy would be with Mahaprabhu. So he released him from the government service and he gave him a full pension, didn't reduce his salary at all. And Ramananda Roy then became, he and Swarup Damodar were always with Mahaprabhu. Kashi Mishre Kripa Pradyumna Mishradi Milan Paramananda Puri Govinda Kashishvara Gaman. After Ramananda Roy's arrival, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bestowed his mercy upon Kashi Mishra and met Pradyumna Mishra and other devotees. At that time, three personalities, Paramananda Puri Govinda and Kashishvar, came to see Lord Chaitanya at Jagannath Puri. So Paramananda Puri, Govinda, and Kashishvar. Damodar Swarup Milane Paramananda Shiki Mahite Milan Rai Bhavananda. Eventually there was a meeting with Swarup Damodar and the Lord became very greatly pleased. Then there was a meeting with Shiki Mahiti and with Bhavananda Roy, the father of Ramananda Roy. So this is during the time when Mahaprabhu first comes to Jagannath Puri. Goda Hoite Sarva Vaishnavera Kulina Grama Basi Sange Pratama Milan. All the devotees from Bengal gradually began arriving at Jagannath Puri. At this time, the residents of Kulinagram also came to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for the first time. Naraharidas Adi Jatakanda Basi Shivananda Sena Sange Milila Sabayashi. Eventually, Naraharidas and other inhabitants of Kanda, along with Shivananda Sen, all arrived and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met them. Janardan Deki Prabhu Sange Bhaktagan Sabaloya Koila Prabhu Gundicha Marjan. Right? I've read all these verses, right? Nara Haridas Adi Jata Kanda Basi Shivananda Sen Sange Milila Savayashi. Eventually, Naraharidas and other inhabitants of Kanda, along with Shivananda Sen, all arrived, and Mahaprabhu met them. Snanayatra Deki Prabhu Sange Bhaktagan Sabaloya Koila Prabhu Gundicha Marjan. After seeing the bathing ceremony of Lord Jagannath, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed and cleaned Sri Gundicha temple with the assistance of many devotees. Sab Sange Rathayatra Koila Darashan Ratha Agre Nritya Kori Udyane Gaman. After this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the devotees saw the Rathayatra, the car festival ceremony. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself danced in front of the car, and after dancing, he entered a garden. Prataparudare Kripa Koila Seistane Gaudiya Bhakti Agyadila Vidayaradine. In that garden, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bestowed his mercy upon King Prataparudra. Afterwards, when the Bengali devotees were about to return home, the Lord gave separate orders to almost every one of them. So previously, Mahaprabhu went meet with the king, Prataparudra Maharaj, because Mahaprabhu said the king is the emblem of material enjoyment. He has everything. He has money, he has women, he has big position. So Mahaprabhu said, it's not correct that a sannyasi meet with a king. he was asked to meet with the king. They said, oh, the king is a great devotee. And then Mahaprabhu said, all right, he may be a great devotee, but there's one thing wrong with him, and that's that he has the name king. And he said, Mahaprabhu said, that's like a drop of alkaline in a container of milk. It ruins everything. So can't meet with a king. And then they kept on saying he should meet with a king, but Mahaprabhu said, if you keep saying this, I'll leave here. And finally, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya made some plan with the king. He said, well, at the time of the Rathayatra, Mahaprabhu will be dancing and dancing, and then he'll be so tired, and he'll go into a garden near Gundicha, and he'll be in the garden. So that time you go into the garden, but don't go dressed as a king. You go dressed in the simple clothes of a Vaishnava. So the king went in there, and then the king began reciting to Mahaprabhu the chapters from the Srimad Bhagavatam about the Rathayatra, and then Mahaprabhu was very satisfied, and he embraced the king. And it seems like, oh, well, it was a trick to let the king, Mahaprabhu, but somehow or other, after that, Mahaprabhu never said anything about not meeting with the king. He met with the king after that, and Mahaprabhu was very affectionate to the king. Just on the first meeting, there was some, that way of meeting the king was devised by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, but after that there was no problem. Afterwards, when the Bengali devotees were about to return home, the Lord gave separate orders to almost every one of them. Pradyabda ashibe rata jatra darshane echale chahe bhakta ganera milane. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu desired to meet all the devotees of Bengal every year. Therefore, he ordered them to come to see the Rathayatra festival every year. So generally, the devotees from Bengal would all travel, by foot, sometimes with their wives, and they would arrive in Jagannath Puri for Rathayatra, and often they would stay in Jagannath Puri during the 4 months of the Chaturmasya. We're in Chaturmasya now. This party. We're in the month of Damodar, or Kartik. It's part of the Chaturmasya. Sarvabhauma Gare Prabhu Bhikka Paripati Satira Mata Kohe Jate Rande Hauk Sati. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was invited to dine at the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. When he was eating sumptuously, the son-in-law, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the husband of his mother, Sati, criticized him. Because of this, Sati's mother cursed him by praying that Sati would become a widow. In other words, she cursed her son-in-law to die. Because Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and his wife Sati, they made so many. Oh, not his wife. She's called Sati Mata. She's the mother. Sarvabhauma's wife is the mother of Sati. Sati is her daughter. So, when they were eating, the Amoga came, and they had made so much prasadam so much offered to Mahaprabhu, and then that Moga, he was accustomed to criticize Vaishnavas, but he saw just mountains and mountains of prasadam. He says, how is one sannyasi eating all this? And then when he said that, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and his wife were very angry. And then Sarvabhauma, he was older, but he ran after that Amoga. He wanted to beat him with a stick, but Amoga ran away, and then after that, they cursed Amoga to die, and actually Amoga fell down dying of cholera. But while he was dying, Mahaprabhu ran there and saved him, and Mahaprabhu said, the heart of a Brahmin should be very pure, but you have allowed envy to come into your heart. So how have you allowed envy to come into the most clean place of the heart of the Brahmin? But then Mahaprabhu told him to get up from his deathbed and chant the holy name. And Amoga got up and started chanting, and then he was saved from dying, and also saved from he became a great devotee after that. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, you should have let him die. Mahaprabhu didn't let him die. Varshantare Advaitare Bhaktera Agaman Prabhure Dekite Sabe Korila Gaman. At the end of the year, all the devotees from Bengal, headed by Advaitacharya, again came to see the Lord. Indeed, there was a great rush of devotees to Jagannath Puri. Anande Sabare Niya Dena Vasastan Shivananda Sen Kore Sabarapalan. When all the devotees from Bengal arrived, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu allotted them residential quarters, and Shivananda Sen was put in charge of their maintenance. Shivananda Sanghe Aila Kurkura Bhagavan Prabhupada Charana Deki Koila Antadan. A dog accompanied Shivananda Sen and the devotees, and that dog was so fortunate that after seeing the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was liberated and went back home, back to God. So this happens sometimes with us when we're on Sankirtan. Sometimes some dogs just hear the Sankirtan, they bark at the devotees and everything, but other times some dogs follow the devotees for a long time. So that year, a dog accompanied Shivananda Sen and the devotees when they were traveling all the way from Bengal to Puri. One dog followed them. And that dog was so fortunate that after seeing the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was liberated and went back home, back to Godhead. Pate Sarvabhauma Saha Sabaram Milan Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya Kashite Gaman. So that dog was very fortunate. Everyone met Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya on his way to Varanasi. Anyway, Prabhu Milila Sarva Vaishnava Asiya Jala Krita Koila Prabhu Savare Loya. After arriving at Jagannath Puri, all the Vaishnavas met with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Later, Mahaprabhu sported in the water, taking all the devotees with him. Sabaloya Koila Gundicha Griha Samarjan Rathayatra Darshane Prabhuranartan. Dhanyavad. Do you go for getting flowers today?
Yep.
Okay. Which days do we not get?
Monday, Murali does it, and Tuesdays they don't get it.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. You know, Madhav Maharaj comes tonight.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. That'll be good to see him.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
So you're okay getting the flowers? It's not too difficult for you?
No.
Okay.
Fine.
Okay.
Thanks, Maharaj.
Okay. Prabhure Milila Sarva Vaishnava Asiya Jalakrita Koila Prabhu Sabare Loya. After arriving at Jagannath Puri, all the Vaishnavas met with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Later, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sported in the water, taking all the devotees with him. Sabloya Koila Gundicha Griya Samarjan Rathayatra Darshane Prabhuranartan. First, the Lord washed the temple of Gundicha very thoroughly. Then everyone saw the Rathayatra festival and the Lord's dancing before the car. One year we were in Rathayatra and it was so hot, really hot. And from the Rath cars, they spray rose water. But, it's still, but to alleviate the heat, they had these kind of old-fashioned fire trucks, and they came and with hoses, they sprayed everybody down with water. First, the Lord washed the temple at Gundicha very thoroughly. Then everyone saw the Rathayatra festival and the Lord's dancing before the car. Upavane Koila Prabhu Vividam Vilas Prabhura Abhishek Koila Vipra Krishnadas. In the garden along the road from the Jagannath temple to Gundicha, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed various pastimes. A Brahmin named Krishnadas performed the bathing ceremony of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gundicha te nritya ante koila jalakeli herapanchamite dekila lakmi devir keli. After dancing in the Gundicha temple, the Lord sported in the water with his devotees, and on Herapanchami day, they all saw the activities of the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi. So they refer to Hera Panchami, that's like on the fifth day, Panchami. It's also called Lakshmi Vijay. And there's a big description there's a description in the Chaitanya Charitamrita about the Hera Panchami after, actually, Jagannath Dev's married to Lakshmi Devi, so she's very upset that he left her and goes to Gundicha temple. He says he's going with his friends on the Rathayatra car, and he leaves Lakshmi, and she's very upset. So she goes there with her maid servants, and they get to where the Jagannath cars are, and then they begin chastising and arresting the servants of Lord Jagannath, and Lakshmi is very angry. So, and that day is called Lakshmi Vijay, and King Prachaparudra said that make this a big festival for Lakshmi Vijay, make more prasadam than even during the Rathayatra. So, and they do that festival very big way. Krishna Janma Jatrate, Krishna Janma Jatrate, Prabhu Gopavesha Hoila, Dadibara Bahitabe Laguda Firaila. On Janmashtami, Lord Krishna's birthday, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dressed himself as a cowherd boy. At that time, he carried a balance with pots of yogurt and wheeled a rod about. It was Janmashtami, and they all dressed as cowherd boys. Mahaprabhu also dressed like that, but at that time, cowherd boys, they carry sticks, and so somebody said to Mahaprabhu, well, we'll really know if you're a cowherd boy if you can twirl this stick. So he's twirling his stick, and when When I was very young, I'd see all this twirling of a baton, like they have parades like the Rose Bowl parade. They have these bands and the majorettes. They're twirling batons around very fast and above their head and behind their back and between their legs, and they throw the batons. So that kind of thing. That's the kind of thing that Mahaprabhu was doing with a stick, twirling his stick around. Because apparently the cowherd boys, they know how to twirl those sticks very nicely. After this, Mahaprabhu bade farewell to all the devotees from Godadesh and continued chanting with the intimate devotees who constantly remained with him. So it says, on Janmashtami, Lord Krishna's birthday, Mahaprabhu dressed himself as a cowherd boy. At that time, he carried a balance with pots of yogurt and wheeled a rod about. So that's wheeling them, twirling that stick. Godara Bhakta Ganes Tabe Koi Karila Vidai Sangara Bhakta Loya Kore Kirtana Sadai. Pretty. I used to like to see how they twirled the baton so quickly. After this, Mahaprabhu bade farewell to all the devotees from Godadesh, Bengal, and continued chanting with his intimate devotees who constantly remained with him. Vrindavana Jaite Koila Godere Gaman Prataparudra Koila Pate Vivida Sevan. To visit Vrindavan, the Lord went to Godadesh, Bengal. On the way, King Prataparudra performed a variety of services to please the Lord. So that was the first time Mahaprabhu went to Vrindavan through Orissa and Bengal. And he wasn't in one sense he was successful, and in another sense he wasn't. He didn't get to Vrindavan at that time because too many people were following him. But he did get to Ramakeli.
It's a little bit cold. So.
Cold.
Sri Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj ki jai.
These are really Maha garlands. So Madhav Maharaj will be here tonight, but very late.
I'm so happy he's coming back.
Huh?
So happy to have him back.
Yeah, and then we'll see what we can plan to kind of get everything more organized with the altar and everything.
Yes. Happy. I'm going to be a couple.
And also, Radharani, she says she knows how to cook. I know her mother very well, and she can cook. I'm hoping she can.
Happy day. Mara, she's really an all-rounder.
Yeah, of course. She's been her whole life with devotees.
Yep. Sweet mood, too.
She's not sure what she's getting into.
I'm getting scared now.
Good. Godara Bhakta Gane Tabe Korila Vidai Sangera Bhakta Loya Kore Kirtana Sadai. After this, Mahaprabhu bade farewell to all the devotees from Godadesh, Bengal, and continued chanting with his intimate devotees who constantly remained with him. Vrindavana Jaite Koila Kodare Gaman Prataparudra Koila Pate Vivida Sevan. To visit Vrindavan, the Lord went to Godadesh, Bengal. On the way, King Prataparudra performed a variety of services to please the Lord. So, the king arranged for places to be built where Mahaprabhu could stay, and he sent people from his government to accompany Mahaprabhu, because the king was situated in, I believe, in Cuttack, which is on the way, and then, okay. Puri Gosai Sanghe Bastra Pradhana Prasangam Ramananda Roy Aila Bhadraka Paryanta. On the way to Vrindavan via Bengal, there was an incident wherein some cloth was exchanged with Puri Gosai. Sri Ramananda Roy accompanied the Lord as far as the city of Bhadrak. Okay, sure.
Shri Shri Guru Gauranga
Ase Vidya Vachaspatir Krihate Rohila Prabhure Dekite Lok Sangato Hoila. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reached Vidyanagar, Bengal, on his way to Vrindavan, he stopped at the house of Vidya Vachaspati, who was the brother of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu suddenly arrived at his house, great crowds of people gathered. So on, let's see, I guess that's on the fourth day of the Navadidam Parikramas. We go to Vidyanagar, and we go to the house of Vidya Vachaspati. And they have their Gaudiya Math temple called Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya Gaudiya Math, like that. It's there. But it's actually the house of near Vidyanagar, and it's where Vidya Vachaspati lived. Panchadina Deke Loka Vidya Vachaspati is the brother of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. But that was where Sarvabhauma was born. Panchadine Deke Lok Nahika Vishram Lokabhaye Ratre Prabhu Aila Kulina Gram. For 5 consecutive days, all the people gathered to see the Lord, and still there was no rest. Out of fear of the crowd, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left at night and went to the town of Kulia, present-day Navadip. So Mahaprabhu was on his way to Puri, on his way to Vrindavan from Puri, and he passed through that place, Vidyanagar, the house of Vidya Vachaspati. But so many people came, and it was like a big crowd. And then Mahaprabhu left at night, and he went to Kulinagram. And Kulinagram is where the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat is, in Kulinagram, present-day Navadip. If one considers the statements of the Chaitanya Bhagavad along with the description of Lochandas Thakur, it is clear that present-day Navadip was formerly known as Kuliagram. While at Kuliagram, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bestowed his favor upon Devananda Pandit and delivered Gopal Chapo and many others who had previously committed offenses at his lotus feet. And that's why at the Mat, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat is also known as Aparad Bhanjanpat, where the offenses are forgiven. At that time, to go from Vidyanagar to Kuliagram, one had to cross a branch of the Ganges. All of those old places still exist. Chinnadanga was formerly situated in Kuliagram, which is now known as Koleraganj. So the temple is in Koleraganj. Kuliagramite Prabhu Shuniagaman Koti Koti Lok Ase Koiladanarashad. Hearing of the Lord's arrival at Kulinagram, many hundreds of thousands of people came to see him. Kuliagrame Koila Devanandere Prasad Gopala Viprere Kamaila Srivasaparad. The specific acts performed by Mahaprabhu at this time were showing favor to Devananda Pandit and excusing the Brahmin known as Gopal Chapo from the offense he had committed at the lotus feet of Srivas Thakur. Mahaprabhu also bestowed mercy on Devananda Pandit because Devananda Pandit, before he was a reciter of Srimad Bhagavatam, and he was very proud. And when Srivas Thakur went there one time, and he was hearing some of the Bhagavatam, and he was crying, and Devananda Pandit thought it was a disturbance, so he had his people take Srivas Thakur out of the assembly, and Mahaprabhu was very upset about that offense. But then later, Devananda Pandit begged forgiveness. Devananda Pandit was encouraged to beg for forgiveness because he was influenced by, who is it that was I'm becoming senile and forgetting names, but what was the name of the devotee, very famous, where Mahaprabhu, famous dancer? Vakeshwara Pandit. Vakeshwara Pandit was a friend of Devananda Pandit, so Vakeshwara Pandit convinced Devananda Pandit that Mahaprabhu, that you've actually offended. You've offended Srivas Thakur, so you have to beg his forgiveness. And he did beg forgiveness from Srivas Thakur, and then later Mahaprabhu gave his mercy to Devananda Pandit. And Pashande Nindaka Ashi Padila Charane Aparad Kami Tare Dila Krishna Preme. Many atheists and blasphemers came and fell at the lotus feet of the Lord, and the Lord in return excused them and gave them love of Krishna. Vrindavana Jaban Prabhu Shuni Nashingananda Pata Sajailamani Payananda. When the Shringananda Brahmachari heard that Mahaprabhu would go to Vrindavan, he became very pleased and mentally began decorating the way there. Kuliya Nagar Hointe Pata Ratne Bandila Nivrinta Pushpa Shaya Upare Patila. First, Nisringananda Brahmachari contemplated a broad road starting from the city of Kuliya. He bedecked the road with jewels, upon which he laid a bed of stemless flowers. So he's making a mental road for Mahaprabhu. He's meditating and making a road for Mahaprabhu all the way to Vrindavan. And he makes the road. First he makes a road, and he puts all these flowers, paves the road with flowers. Pate Dui Dike Pushpa Bakuler Shreni Madhye Madhye Dui Pashe Divya Pushkarini. He mentally decorated both sides of the road with bakul trees, and at intervals on both sides he placed lakes of a transcendental nature. Ratna Bandha Gata Tahe Prafula Kamal Nana Paki Kolahala Sudha Samajal. These lakes had bathing places constructed with jewels, and they were filled with blossoming lotus flowers. There were various birds chirping, and the water was exactly like nectar. So he made this very beautiful path to Vrindavan. But Sitala Samir Bahe Nana Gun Gandaloya Kanaira Natashala Parjanta Loila Bandaiya. The entire road was surcharged with many cool breezes which carried the fragrances from various flowers. He carried the construction of this road as far as Kanai Natashala, but he only got to Kanai Natashala. He didn't get all the way to Vrindavan. in his mind making the road. Agemana nahi chale, na pare bandite, pata banda, na jai, Nrsinga hoila vishmite. Within the mind of Nrsinga Brahmachari, the road could not be constructed beyond Kanai Natashala. He could not understand why the road's construction could not be completed, and thus he was astonished. Nischarya Koriya Kohe Shuna Bhaktagan Ebarana Jabin Prabhu Sri Vrindavan. With great assurance he then told all the devotees that Lord Chaitanya would not go to Vrindavan at that time. Kanaira Natashala Hoite Ashiba Pirinya Janibi Paschat Kahilu Nischay Korinya. Nrsingananda Brahmachari said, the Lord will go to Kanai Natashala and then will return. All of you will come to know of this later, but I now say this with great assurance. So we'll continue tomorrow reading in this. But that happened, Lord, he got as far as Ramakeli, and he met with Rupa and Sanatan and rescued them from the Muslim service. But then when he was leaving Ramakeli, then Sanatan Goswami saw that Mahaprabhu was traveling with many, many thousands of people. As Sanatan Goswami said, this is not the way to go to Vrindavan. So Mahaprabhu thought, I'm going to Vrindavan with so many people, I'm like a magician traveling with so many people, and I should not do this. So then Mahaprabhu went a little further as far as Kanai Natashala, and then he turned around and went back to Shantipur and then back to Bengal. So he didn't make it as far as Vrindavan on that trip. But the trip still, he did reach where Sanatan and Rupa Goswami were staying, and he rescued them from the Muslim government service. So now we'll sing Hari Harai. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama. Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan. Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Garadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Garadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath. Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. Jai Gosai Kori Chanana Bandhan. Jai Gosai Kori Chanana Bandhan. Jai Vignana Shavista Puran. Jai Vignana Shavista Puran. Jai Gosai Jar Muitaradas. Jai Gosai Jar Muitaradas. Kasavar Pada Renu Mora Panchagan. Kasavar Pada Renu Mora Panchagan. Sadar Chanana Sevi Bhakta Saniban. Sadar Chanana Sevi Bhakta Saniban. Janame Janame More Abhilas. Janame Janame Krishna Nitya Lila Gaurila Prakash. Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Gaurila Prakash. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Shri Guru Vaishnava Chai. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas. Hare Nam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamodha. Sankirtana Kohe Naratamodha. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas. Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas. Hare Nam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamodha. Hare Nam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamodha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhari Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Tilak Neriya Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmalacharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtatara Sadashri Shrimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa Parabhajaka Ashta Tara Sadasi Shimad, Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur ki jai, Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai, Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhaktivedanta Thakur ki jai, Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai, Rupanuga Guru Bharga ki jai, Namachar Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasha Raghunath, Shad Goswami Prabhu ki jai, Premasigo Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Jai Sri Chaitanya, Jai Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Jai Om Vishnupad Vishvavaranya Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupad ki jai, Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Kusham Ashram Maharaj ki jai, Ananda Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Shri Navadip Dham ki jai, Shri Mayapur ki jai, Saparshada Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Saparshada Shriman Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Koladvip ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki jai, Soquel Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva Ashram ki jai, Ganga Devi ki jai, Tulasi Maharani ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Shri Vrindavandam ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Govardhan, Sham Kuna Radhakunda Kalindi Yamuna Ju ki jai, Shri Purushottam ki jai, Baladev Subhadra Jagannath Ju ki jai, Bhakti Vigna Vinashaya, Shri Nrsingadev ki jai, Bhakta Prabhara Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, all the assembled devotees ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.